You will see that in some of the handouts that follow. We call these type B regressions. No points, right? No points given. This is on page 33 for the 33rd time. All right. Okay. I have some highlighters ready to go here. You're going to need them. Go ahead. You notice that a paddle wheel, there's that wheel again. Boat has a reflector on the circumference of the wheel, as shown in the diagram below. So the reflector is on the outside. It could have been in, like, you know how there's a reflector on a bicycle tire, you know, those reflectors in there in the spokes. So it could have been further in, but in this case it's on the outside. So I'm going to mention a lot of things that aren't the case here, but could be the case down the road. 3 seconds later, that's important right there. They're giving you some numbers there. 3 seconds later, the reflector reaches a maximum height. I'm going to highlight that. The height of the reflector, h, in feet, varies sinusoidally with the time in seconds and completes a cycle every 12 seconds. What do you think that is telling us? Completes a cycle every 12 seconds. Okay. One period, that's a period right there. Can I just give you a heads up? This is what a problem like this could easily say completes 3 cycles in 30 seconds. Just to throw you off. But you just want 1 cycle, right? So if it had said 3 cycles in 30 seconds, 1 cycle is 10 seconds, right? So you got to watch out for that. The curveball is going to come your way. So this is my period right here. Period is 12 seconds. Okay. Right off the bat. And that's very important. You will do just like before. You will go through the X. Remember how I told you how to graph X scale, Y scale, and then you start graphing? They'll give you a max or a min in the question. Same thing here. So I'm going to figure out my X scale from that. And I'm going to go 12 seconds divided by 4. And that is a nice round 3 seconds, right? So the X scale, right, I got it from the period. I split it in 4 because we know something about that, right? If a full cycle has 4 equally spaced X intervals. There is that, okay? And now we got to figure out our Y max, our mid, and our Y min, okay? We got to figure that out. Here you have to be careful, okay? We know that the diameter of this wheel is able to give us what? If we know the diameter, we also know the radius, correct? If we know the radius, we know what on the amplitude. Hey, you are paying attention. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to just say this part right here. I'm going to go off to the side here. Diameter is 10 feet. Radius is therefore 5 feet, which is A for us, right? All right, so we're a little bit closer because we know that the Y max will be D plus A, the mid will just be D, and the min will be D minus A. We know that. So let me ask you, what is the mid? The mid right here would be this line right there. That would be the center of that wheel. what number would we attribute to that if you could figure it out? This is the min, the y min in particular. This is the y max. Okay. So we need to have numbers because this is with respect to the water level. You see the water level right there? I'm going to give you a little bit of time before I continue because it's important. Would you be able to figure out the min, the max, and the mid based on this information here? What would it be? What numbers would you come up with here, here, and here? Like these three numbers. Just use a pencil because you might have to erase. But take a minute or two to. Ready? This is how I will do it. The water level for me, it's like the ground, right? Wouldn't you agree that that's your 0 feet? All right. But that doesn't really go in here, does it? No, it doesn't. We know that this is 5, right? So if we were to extend the 5 down here, how long would this stretch have to be here? 2 feet. Okay. And so what is this line, though? How would we represent it with respect to the water line? -2, right? Like it goes 2 feet below. And so we're going to go, I put this down because sometimes this is helpful, but we're just going to go and say, hey, this is -2 feet. So what would be the mid then? From here to here, what would this line be? Well, from -2, if you add, how many do you need to add to get to the middle? From the lowest to the highest? 5, right? Because we know that this is the same as this, right? It's always going to be the same from the lowest to the mid. It's going to be the same as from there to the highest. So you're going to have to add 5 feet to it. So -2 plus 5 is going to be 3, right? And then you take your amplitude one more time to get to the highest here. So I'm giving it a slightly different approach, but this is still acceptable, right? Like AA, right? So what would that be if this is 3 feet, then 3 plus 5 would be 8 feet. Okay, so this is 8 feet here. And that's the reason being is that because of the water level, guys. If this would have been a wheel on the road, then it would have been like this, right? And so in that case, this would have been your 0 here, down, and then you would have gone up 5, that would have been 5, right? And another 5 would have been 10, right? But the problem is the water here. So when you're below it, you got to make sure you have a negative. And then I used that to jump an amplitude, and I jumped another amplitude. So I don't know if you want to highlight this with the same as your radius, right? That's what we kept on doing, right? The radius is what helped us here. And notice that every scenario will be different. It might have told you, hey, you start at -2. Like it would have just told you that, and then easier, right? But in this case, it didn't. So it basically all started with the radius, which we got from the diameter, which we know is the amplitude, and the fact that the water line is 0, right? This is 0 feet. I don't know if you want to put that down on either side. It looks kind of funny, right? Is it oft? How often? No, it's 0 feet. Trust me. So this is our y scale right here. We've got that figured out. Y scale. We've got our x scale, y scale, and then we need to just now know where do we start. And then we go from there. Okay. So I will actually completely go against what it says here. Determine the equation of the sinusoidal wave. I'm going to put that on hold here. Actually, sorry. It says draw a graph. We're going to do this first. You ready? This is how I do word problems like these. You ready? Boom, boom, boom. I draw 3 lines. It's just a sketch. Is this going to help me? I don't care if it's just scale. I don't care how pretty it looks. I don't care about any of that. This is just to help you out. Okay? Where do we start, guys, based on the problem? Is there some kind of indication? Watch this. It says 3 seconds later, after seeing it, the reflector reaches a maximum height. So I'm going to start at a max here. Okay, and I'm going to indicate that 3 seconds after this thing started moving, it's at a max, which we know is 8, the mid is 3, the bottom is -2, right? We're going to jump between those 3. So it's 3, 8. You know you're going to come back to that, right? That's going to be here. And you know that halfway between those, you're way at the bottom. And then just introduce these other ones, which are also halfway between the max and the min, right? So it's kind of like a symmetrical. So we're going to keep adding how much to the x value? It's 3, right? So it'll be 6, 3. This would be 9, -2. This would be 12, 3. And this would be 15, 8. So I kept on adding, okay? Kept on adding 3 to each one of those. And that's why I kind of did it this way all along, to kind of prepare you for this step, right? It's kind of like backwards thinking. Like I'm like, this is where I want you to be at. So how about we use it for everything we're doing so it's not learning new things, right? So we can come up with our equation now. So we're going to come up with the equation first. So we go stat, calc, sin reg, and let's do it. I encourage you to all type it in so we can answer more questions. So, oops. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 8, 3, -2, 3, 8. Can I say something here? This is important. Let's say you missed the boat. Paddle wheel. Let's say you missed the boat earlier. You didn't get these numbers right. If you pay close attention to this, if you type these numbers in and the difference between the min and the mid is not the same as the mid and the max, you did something wrong, right? This should be the same as this, right? So if you're not getting that right, you gotta go back and check, right? That should be the same. Anyway, so stat, calc. Okay, so here we go. No surprises with the amplitude, and it's 0.5236x. There's no c value, plus 3. Okay, and that is our equation. Boom, you're done. Normally, this is what I'm going to ask you to do first, and then I will ask you to graph it later. I don't like to graph right away. I like to have the equation. But graphing this is actually a breeze because you have the first 5 points already. And quite often the numbers are reasonable. They're not crazy, okay? So it says to graph it, right? We did. So this is actually B. Can you just change this to B? We're going to do that first. And this is just a sketch, right? Sketch only. This is not, I mean, I will give you marks for the work, like for sure, but this is not intended to be a nice graph, okay? So we got that figured out. I'm going to skip the graph for now because I want to do another example. and I will get you the graph yet. Don't worry, you'll do enough of that. Determine how long the reflector is underwater. I'm going to go underwater, okay? During each revolution. Explain how you arrived at your answer. So obviously, we're interested in the points along the water line. So we'll go ahead and graph this. I will first change my window. I'm going to go -1. And for the x max, a period is 12, right? So I usually go 12 times 3. Like I go period times 3 in there. That will make sure I have enough. This is -3, and I go as high as 8, so I'm going to make the highest 9. And that gives me, whoa, sorry, clear that one. And I'm going to draw my y2 is equal to 0 already as well. So one revolution happens from here to here, okay? So that's what we're interested in. If we find these two times, let's go ahead and do that, and then I will explain what we need to do here. Second trace 5. I'm going to jump to the red line. You already found it probably. So time 1 is 7.2290, right? That's what it rounds to. Second trace 5. The other side. Time 2 is 10.7710. And so if I find, like if this is my wave here, right? I'm finding these 2 points, right? This is time 1, this is time 2, right? That elapsed there. If I subtract these, what will I find? Look at the cap. If I subtract this, I'm actually going to find the time the water was below, right? Below the water. So if the question asks how much time it spent above water, you'll just take the period, right? A full period, and just subtract this difference from it, and then you get above water. So let's figure this out. Delta time, 10.771 minus, and for me, that is 3.54 seconds below water. And why not figure out above water right away? Time above water. We will just go period minus time below. Period is 12 minus 3.54. That's 8.46 seconds. You know, I like to highlight. So I'm going to say 8.46 within one cycle, right? This, you're finding the time it spent there, okay? Versus when you found this, you actually found the time it spent below. So when you subtract two things, you're actually finding that cap. Okay, remember that. You're finding the little cap when you subtract. It could be above like this, right? If you draw a line and you subtract 2 like this, that is your cap, right? So if you don't want the cap, then you subtract from the period, and that's how you get it. Okay, another one. Or maybe not. Time is not going to help us out here. So I'm going to tell you which ones I want you to try. Make sure you try, okay, guys? I know you're low on energy. I get it. I'm going to tell you which ones I want you to try. Skip 34. That one is interesting, but you don't need to do it. I want you to try page 35 and 36. Okay? So I'm going to go to page 35 and just tell you at the top, type B, homework, page 35 and 36. I'm going to, the answer key will go past it. So if you want more, you know what I would suggest right now? Don't focus on the graphing so much. Focus on how in the world would I even come up with the points. If you can do that and come up with the equation, move on to the next one and the next one and keep doing that. And then when you're done that, then you can try the graphing, because I know you know how to graph at this point. For the most part, you know how to do that. So I would encourage you to go past this and just focus on how in the world am I coming up with the points. I will post the key. It's detailed, guys. So you have no excuses, right? It's detailed. It's not just the answer. It's actually showing you how I came up with them. And so that's going to be part of the quiz on Monday. Is going to be this stuff as well. Okay, probably more focused on this than everything else. Right?